All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to TRPG. We are a platform for marginalized voices to talk about the TTRPG community. I am Nikki. I use she, her pronouns. I am an educator, LGBTQ, and disability advocate for teachers, as well as a professional game master.
Hello, everyone. I'm Reese, co-founder and co-host of TTRPG. Thank you so much for being here.
All right. So, what's in your cup today, Reese?
I'm actually drinking peppermint today.
Nice. So I'm having Warrior Princess from Friday Afternoon Tea. Friday is a partner of the show, and you can get a tea discount by going to Friday Afternoon Tea's website and putting in, I believe the promo code is TTRPG. I'll put it in the chat in a moment. But anyway, so Warrior Princess is based on Xena, who I blame for making me gay. And it is really spicy and delicious and decaffeinated, which is really important at this time of day.
Yeah, everyone, please make sure to check out Friday Afternoon Tea. We also have our own blend of Friday tea called TTRPG, and we're very excited about it. It's a blend of black tea, orange, raspberry, and sparkles.
And before we get any further into the show today, I do want to apologize if you're a new follower and you weren't able to chat because of
Yes.
this. I've been talking the whole time while muted, so I will do that introduction again. So you all heard me on Zoom, but unfortunately I was muted on OBS. So Sarah Thompson is a disabled writer and tabletop game designer and the author of Homebrewed Combat Wheelchair for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. They have worked on Starfinder, Pathfinder, Hellboy the role-playing game, Castle Falkenstein, Cyberpunk Red, and The Witcher Pen and Paper and more. Sarah advocates for better disability representation and accessibility in tabletop role-playing games. Their favorite TTRPG is The Witcher Pen and Paper by R. Telsorian Games. Sarah, I am so excited to have you on the show. I forgot to tell you this in the green room. I read the entire Witcher series this summer because of you.
Apparently, a lot of people have, because I don't shut up about it on my Twitter. But it's always great to meet people and talk to them about it and see people who've read it for the first time. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it was really good, and I think that I'm always really hesitant to check out new book series written by men, written by white men especially, and so I kind of get worried, but seeing like who you are and then that you're a big fan made me a lot more comfortable to check it out. And I really enjoyed the entire series, and I thought it was pretty great. And every book series has some like downsides, but it was overall, and it was really compelling and interesting. but that's not why you're on the show. So you've been advocating for disability representation in RPGs, and specifically, you've been working on this combat wheelchair. And I think it's today you released the Combat Wheelchair 3.0.
Yesterday.
That was today. Yesterday. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're in the future for me, so. So I just want to know, like, how long have you been working on the combat wheelchair?
Though it's been publicly available for about a year now, it has been just over a 2-year project. I started it I don't know why I did, but I started it in my last year of university. So I was juggling my finals and this whole big project, and making use of the resources I had at the university library, because you could just go in and nobody would question you for taking something out because you're a student, you clearly need it. So like I'd go into like the disability studies section and pick out stuff that was written by actual disabled people, because disability studies has a bit of a problem with a lot of able-bodied people dominating the field, which is a bit contradictory and has a lot of problems. But I went and took stuff out, learned about it, read about it, and even went and bought documentaries and films about disabled people, and learned about the kind of culture behind the sports, as well as just trying to take from it for a game. I actually really wanted to learn about the community built around it and everything.
That's awesome. And so you just released the Combat Wheelchair 3.0. And so what's new? What's different about the new wheelchair?
Well, the core rules got a lot of expanding. There are things now for like what happens if you fall in water, what constitutes how you can swim with the chair, if it becomes a certain weight and exceeds your weight carrying capacity, then you begin to sink 5 foot per round, how you can basically abandon ship if you need to, and manage to get all of your items before the wheelchair sinks, because the equipment has safety measures for things like that, so you can salvage your stuff if the chair is either broken beyond repair or inaccessible to you. There are different more in-depth rules for how the chair adapts to different body types. So now people who have lycanthropy can still use the chair while in their were form, and druids with their wild shape forms as well. They can choose how the chair appears in that form. There's a really nice piece of work by Gretchen Meinzen in the PDF of a big dire wolf with one of those like doggy wheelchairs, and that's how the chair adapts to that. There are also 14 subclasses, brand new, all of them, including very kindly Matt Mercer's Blood Hunter subclass, which was very kind of him, to let me use. And yeah, he was like super supportive of it, which was great. And also an entirely new class with 4 subclasses that I made called the Łowca, which is a Polish word meaning hunter, and it's a love letter from me to the entirety of the Witcher series. It's basically, if you could be a Witcher in D&D, this is how you'd be it. And you basically kind of become part monster in order to fight monsters effectively. So I think I said on Twitter, like, yeah, I just sat down and made an absolutely like feral level class. So you can get really like, fun with it. And I've got a few more schools and stuff in mind for it, because at the minute there is biomancy, where you change the physicality of your body to adapt different parts of monsters. So like you can get dragon scales to toughen your skin, poisonous barbs that shoot out of your skin to hit enemies and things like that. Then there is a neuromancy, which is all about Fae and the dreamscape, and eventually by 18th level you can summon an astral projection of yourself to fight with you. There is also the School of the Source, which is all about blood and the body and disrupting blood flow or tissues in the body in order to stop enemies like physically in their tracks because they can't move and things like that. There is also spiracy, where basically you become part ghost and you can walk through walls. You can go through people, reappear, make an extra attack from behind with advantage because technically you have surprise. Yeah, it's a really fun class. It comes with a bunch of blade oils as well that only that class can use because they're highly volatile, which was also taken from The Witcher. And you basically choose these blade oils and make them, and you can coat your blades with them, and you're more effective against certain classes of monsters. Sorry. And then there is the upgrades catalog got a huge expansion. It's now like 6 pages long or something ridiculous, when before it was only 2. And there's lovely artwork for that. There's a short story about my character who's in Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, Talon,
Wait, what?
who
Your
uses a
character
wheelchair.
is in Idle Champions?
Yes, Talon Uren is in Idle Champions. He's an unlockable character for slot 2. He's a support character. He's great. And I could go on about him forever. But then after that, there are 3 NPCs, one of them being Talon. And then there is Meridu Harbuckle, who is a non-binary halfling paladin who uses their combat wheelchair as a mount. And they use like a big glaive weapon. They're amazing. I love them. And then there is Verena Marson. Surname is a nod to Matt Mercer because she is a blood hunter. She is like semi-retired and she uses a cane. So yeah, and also all the art as well doesn't just depict wheelchairs. We wanted to depict loads of different disabilities. There are blind characters. There are people who use service animals, wheelchairs, walking canes, joint supports, prosthetics, all sorts.
So, what inspired you to want to? Now, I have an idea of what inspired you to do the work. I want to know what motivates you to keep doing the work in the face of all the adversity that you have to deal with.
Spite. A lot of it is spite, but a lot of it as well is it. Like I said, the introduction to it, it is something that like even when I've had like really rough times with certain aspects of the community, it has always been something that like I return to with a smile, because I know it made the people I made it for happy, and that's what matters to me at the end of the day. And getting to, there's always something like I'll read over the rules and I'm like, oh, I could add this or I could add that, or a friend brings something up and it gets me thinking about it again. I really do care about it. I wouldn't have made 14 subclasses and a whole new class if I didn't care about it. I really do love it, and I think this version of it really took off because I got super into it when I made all the subclasses, and started commissioning artists, all of whom are disabled, chronically ill, and neurodivergent. So it's an entire project made by the disabled community, and it's been an absolute blast. Like working with everyone, seeing how excited the artists were for it kept me going when things got rough, especially because I did quite a fun thing with the artists where I pretty much just gave them the text as it appears in the PDF for like the subclass or something, and I just went, draw what you think it looks like to you. Your interpretation of it. So we had people who drew characters that they then wanted to play and would play in their later games and things like that. So it, getting to do that with the artists and getting to see them really put, like themselves into the artwork has really made like the art super unique, I think. And yeah, it's added like a whole new kind of level, I think, to the new PDF.
Absolutely, especially because they're going to put a little extra love in it because there's more ownership over it. That's awesome. I think that's a really great way as well to have that that buy-in of your artists. So within the TTRPG community, what is something that you're hoping for, like 5 years from now? What do you see for the community?
I'd like it to be that disability stuff gets put in, and companies and people don't have to actively go out of their way to like point it out as like something, that, oh, we did this one thing, like, cookie kind of points like a lot of big companies do. Um, yeah, like I just hope that like we can eventually just have disability and mobility and chronic illness, neurodivergency, and the same goes for, the queer community and people of color as well, that like it doesn't have to be pointed out. It should just be a part of the game and should be accepted as part of the game. Um, so yeah, like I really do think and hope because like the community and a lot of companies I've worked with are taking the right steps, and are moving in like a really positive direction. So of course, at the beginning, people are going to announce that they're adding these things to the game, which is fine because it really builds up excitement and draws attention to it. But like, I really do hope that in the future, it doesn't just become a thing that companies throw in as kind of tokenism every now and then. That should start to become a staple. Is what I really hope for in 5 years' time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you mentioned earlier working with a little bit with Matt Mercer, getting the Blood Hunter class into your subclasses. So, what was it like having your combat wheelchair featured as such a badass character on Critical Role?
Um, it came completely out of left field.
Oh, you didn't even know it was
I was
happening.
like, no, I knew it was happening, but
Oh,
like
okay.
the message I got to ask if he could use it like was out of left field, no build up to it. I think it was like the first message he ever sent me. So like it came out of nowhere. And I was just kind of God, I think I was like sat on my bed or something and I was like playing on my Switch. I got a notification, opened it, saw it, and I was like, I'm gonna need 10 minutes before like I look at the full message, because immediately like it says, Matt Mercer followed you back and is sending you a message, and I was like, okay. um and he was really kind about it, super supportive, and said, hey, I would really like to put it in Critical Role, but I understand if you don't want that, because at the time the community was quite a bit of backlash, and he was like, I don't want to draw attention to you if it's only going to be negative or you don't feel comfortable. And he was really reassuring, and said that he had disability consultants who had already gone over the character, and had been talking with him about the kind of language use around that character, and things like that. And I do follow Critical Role in terms of like I read like the blogs that cover it, because like I fell behind and you can never catch up once you've fallen behind. There is like no time. So I kind of read the blogs that recap everything. And I actually tuned in for this episode, with the character with Dagon Underthorn, and yeah, like just seeing the community there, the creator community being like so supportive and like super hyped for it as well. Like the whole chat was like spamming about it. It was really funny. And Matt completely did the character justice. Like I kind of knew that like he must have had like some really like good advice, from the disabled community and people, because like when one of the characters asked, oh, will you be like okay out on the ice, even though like I don't think they realized at that point that he had like snow chain tires, and he was like, oh, I'll be fine, the real question is like, can you guys keep up? And I was like, yes, nailed it, I'm in love with this character. Yeah, and getting to see the community like drawing art of him and disabled critters like really finding something to love in this character, because he represented them on some level, was just great. And yeah, it really helped to normalize the chair and like the greater part of the community. And yeah, Matt's been super supportive of it, really kind. And I always do send him like the latest version of the chair, because like I don't want him to be like DMing for Critical Role or something and not have the recent rules. So I always make sure to send them to him. And yeah, he's always been, great about it, which is just really cool. But yeah, like it all came completely out of left field. Like I had no idea that he wanted to add an NPC. And like the fact that he was like very cordial and kind, and like completely respected like my initial like worries, and clarifying that he had spoken to disabled people and was putting the research in was just great. So yeah, like it was still, it still is bizarre. Like even when I wrote for the new combat wheelchair, like recapping, where it's been and what it's been in, and the fact that it's been in not just Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms or Rivals of Waterdeep, it's been in Critical Role as well, which has been, wild.
Yeah, big deal. The critter attention can be a lot. All right, so I have one more question for you, and this might be the most challenging or the easiest one. What character in the Witcher series do you most connect with?
It would be Geralt. Well. Yeah, I think it would be Geralt, because that was kind of what spoke to me a lot about The Witcher. And it actually, like, even though the books have problems with disability representation and things like that, like, it was very much the thing that helped me deal with my internalized ableism and my own anger at myself, because Geralt becomes disabled abruptly and has to like deal with it, and he doesn't know how, and his own anger at that, and frustration and things like that. And it really I was like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't just like generic fantasy anymore, this is like something special. And yeah, it really helped me like come to terms with my own problems and how I confronted my own disability. So yeah, definitely Geralt. And then the other character is just my favorite character, and that's Regis, because Regis is the best character. But yeah, Geralt's the one that spoke to me. Yeah,
Regis is Geralt's the best character.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for letting us interview you. We will bring you back at the end for our whole group interview, and we'll do plugs then. So okay. Up next, we have Derek, who is a narrator, professional monster, audio editor, and composer for Fast Times at D&D High. And so, Derek, you can take it away whenever you're ready.
I think you're muted.
I have to do it myself. Guess what? I have to do the thing. Yeah. Wow. I'm like, I'm not going to make that mistake. I'm going to wait for them to unmute me. No, it's me. Hi. Great start. Cool. I had a dramatic entrance and everything. It's all gone now.
You can still do a dramatic entrance. Like, that's allowed here.
Yeah. So you guys talked to me in the green room beforehand about talking about the story behind the songs. And that actually works really well with the songs that I have for this show, because all of my original music comes from a LARP called Occam's Razor, which happened in New Hampshire, way, if you're familiar with that area. And the songs are dark folk music about the game. So the 5-year story of a small town called Whisper Hill in New Hampshire that had a dark secret and a gate deep underground that demanded yearly blood, or it would unleash the darkness. This song actually is the entire story of Whisper Hill and the struggles that people had to undergo when they played the game, and leading up to the dramatic conclusion of, do we seal the gate? How do we keep the darkness out? So I don't even need to explain it. You can just listen to my words and then you'll get it. So I'll do right in it. That's a phrase people say. Yeah. This song is called The Dark Beyond.
Terrorizing me with eyes like holes and hollow souls. they slay in darkness' name. So grab your guns, put up your blades. It's time to fight our fate. And don your robe of dark office. Meet me at the gate. When the darkness comes, it comes to kill. Arise and fight it, whisper ill. Fighting till the break of dawn. Just trying to keep the lights on. When leaves turn red, the angry dead take a vengeful form. They stalk the town after sundown, retribution storm. So lock the doors and feed the crows and give the ghosts their due. Blind Molly watches us, and it's an ugly thing we do. When the darkness comes, it comes to kill. Rise and fight it, whisper hill. Fighting till the break of dawn. Just trying to keep the lights on. Darkness drips from blackened lips, black tears from tarry eyes. Bring flare and flame, bring hallowed name. The dark is on the rise. Bring gasoline, bring kerosene to face the dying of the light. Bring everything that burns in rage against the falling night. Night, 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 night. Oh, oh. Feel it pulse, feel it seethe, the dark beyond the gate. The gears grind on another year and cast a loathsome weight. And like a soul it from its rest, drawn from the well of bone. A knife cuts out a beating heart, whose blood is on the stone. When the darkness comes, it comes to kill. Rise and fight it, whisper hill. Lock the doors and feed the crows and give the ghosts their due. Blind Molly watches us, and it's an ugly thing we do. When the dark darkness comes, it comes to kill. And rise invited Whisper Hill. And lock the doors and feed the crows and give the ghosts their due. Blind Molly watches us, and it's an ugly thing we do.
Thanks.
If you could see the chat right now, like people are having their hearts broken multiple times.
Well, that just makes me feel so feelings.
That's a part of being a musician, is breaking hearts.
Yeah, it's also panicking and screaming for 20 minutes while you're muted, waiting for your turn to go.
Well, I mean, if you ever want to like collab, I would like to have you as my guitar player.
Talk me into it. Okay, that's
okay.
yeah,
It's
sure.
happening.
I feel like I'm gonna cry. Like I've got a piece of makeup on, and I'm sitting here like that. You know that feeling where like it's in the back of your eyes, and you feel like you're about to start crying, and you're trying really hard not to.
It's like the pre-gush.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Morshadi said, "Tell that man to stop. I'm playing a driving game right now, and I can't drive while crying."
Yeah, I felt that for sure.
I mean, it means so much that people do enjoy this stuff, because for me, this was the first game I ever NPC'd at, and keeping the lights on and trying to keep the darkness at bay has been just like the running theme of like every game that that Darksteel Games has run since that. And it's all monsters, it's all emotion, and making sacrifices to keep the lights on at all times. So being able to like write some dorky folk music that channels like the story of something that meant so much to me and meant so much to the people who played it. My DM, Persephone Valentine, and one of the players for Fast Times, Nuance, we met at this game. Like our first meeting was me, a monster, and jumped out and tried to scare Persephone, and she beat the crap out of me and kicked me into a ditch, and then we've been friends forever. So
that's awesome. Could you tell us more about like how everything started with Fast Times at D&D High?
Yeah, sure. It was a pandemic project. For me, I had been narrating audiobooks very unsuccessfully for ACX for like a year. And when the pandemic hit, I was not playing music anywhere. Live performances were shut down. I wasn't doing anything audio. My voice work wasn't going anywhere. And Persephone started Fast Times at D&D High. And she was looking for an audio editor, and I was rolling it around in my head. I was like, audio editing takes so much time. Do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? And after like 5 days of deliberation, I reached out for her. She pretty much was like, okay, this nerd wants it. I can vouch for him. He's in. So we started with that. And since I've also been writing music since like, well before the LARP thing, I just kind of like ran head on into audio editing for these beautifully talented nerds through everything. So I think we're like 16 episodes in. We had an amazing start. Matt Mercer shouted everyone out. We were on Critter Hub when we first did it. This time last year, we were like number 11 in the US. And it's just been so terrifying. It's been terrifying. Would people know this? Like Brennan Lee Mulligan came and did some stuff with us, and Persephone is actually on the newest season of Dimension 20 right now. And it's been horrifyingly surreal jumping between like, me, I just sit and click buttons all day and make things sound nice, and, how this affects people and what we can bring to it. Yeah, that's...
It's really so interesting, like how certain professions like bring you into the TTRPG community. Like I am an audio editor as well,
I'm an entomologist. I studied bugs. This is what I did not go to school for this. I know more about wasps than is reasonably acceptable for public knowledge. And
Yes,
this is what I do now.
it's somehow connected. Like, yeah, I went to college for audio engineering and I only get to use my skills when I'm producing pageants, but you came into the TRPG community and was able to make it a part of your role. But I have like a couple of questions about LARPing because
Sure.
I've never done it before. And before I even started playing games, like I just thought that these nerds were just running in the park, like dressing up. I need to know how you got into it and why you do it.
So it was before it was cosplay. That was what I was doing when I was in college. I was all about Spider-Man. So I would go to like a convention in Portland and just be Spider-Man or, Red Hood or something for a while. And one of my good college friends, sister and brother-in-law were staffing Occam's Razor. And they were like, oh, hey, you should come do this thing for us. We have a role for you. And she was like, that's cool. I don't want to go alone. Who wants to go LARPing with me? And I was like, I don't know what that is, but sure. Like my idea of LARPing was very much like fantasy based, and Occam's Razor was modern horror. And I like instantly fell in love with being an NPC on this, doing the behind the scenes work to give other people a meaningful story. And just like everything about it, like it was this whole new community. I was meeting all these cool people. I was getting the crap kicked out of me in the dark at 2:30 in the morning somewhere in the woods. I actually use all of my characters and stuff that I use for like my audiobooks or for my work with the Mercury Theater podcast. I learned when I was LARPing. That was just like an opportunity to be the bad guy, to be the good guy, to be the 14-year-old paperboy, everything. And the DM who is a really good friend of mine, knew that I did music, and he was like, oh, one of my NPCs has a talent, I'ma use it. So he asked me to write he texted me, he said, hey, if my game was a movie, I want you to write the end credits for it. So then I did, and then that turned into a whole album of like folk music for it. So like getting into LARPing, I thought it was just going to be beating people with foam sticks, and it is, and I love it. But it's also just so much fun being characters or being someone who can help a player have a great game, like giving you feelings. That's what I'm about. If I make you cry with my music, I'm an NPC right now, giving you a good story. Or if you are listening to Fast Times at D&D High and something is giving you emotions, well, I'm an NPC who is giving you a good story by spending 40 hours clicking a mouse and making things like sound good. And that means like the entire world to me.
Yeah, I feel like we don't get to like really appreciate NPCs for what they are, and the fact that you're like digging into that is really awesome.
Yeah, I think I've played like 2 LARP games in my whole life, and then everything else I just like volunteering for them. That's and when COVID hit, I couldn't do that anymore either. I've even our current Darksteel games like LARP stopped because everything was done. So I just went from LARPing to audio editing and music writing for Fast Times and doing work for Mercury Theater podcast. And that's become the new, that's my new professional monster gig, is just music goblin, audio goblin.
Music goblin is like such a cool job title. We're going to come back to you because we're going to hear another song and we're going to have more questions too.
Cool. I'll be muted and screaming. So that's cool.
Yes. Scream along. I'm going to really try not to cry after hearing your song, but we are going to move on and interview our next guest.
Okay.
We'll talk soon. So up next we have Java Cat, which is Marie, who is a cosplay and costume and prop maker. So
Hello.
welcome to TTRPG.
Thank you.
So I dug through your Twitter as much as I could, and
There's not a lot there.
there's not a lot, but I did what I could. Sometimes there doesn't have to be a lot, really.
I made you work for it.
I saw that your bio said that you've been making creatures and cosplay since 2006.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's great that you guys ended up talking about LARP, because that's like the thing I've been doing the most lately. And as I start to finish some of my like really massive like multi-year projects, I'm like super excited to just make a pair of pants that takes a day and something that's just simple for once. And just be able to like run around and hit people with foam swords. So Delta variant permitting, but yeah, it's been a journey.
So, I mean, what was your process coming into it? Like, obviously you probably have a sewing machine and you've been creating costumes. What was that decision process like for you?
I think it's a pretty good story. I was furious with my friend freshman year of high school. They said that they were going to a anime convention, and that's sort of how we bonded. I've always been sort of a late bloomer, at least socially. And so I really struggled like elementary school, middle school to make like good friends. A lot of the friends that I did have moved away. And so when I actually bonded with these anime nerds, that was like the crux of our relationship in high school. And so to find out that they were going to this anime convention and they didn't even mention it to me, I was like, you're taking me. And their brother had to be a chaperone for us. And so it's just like the classic wearing those like really, really nerdy otaku hats. Do you know the ones I'm talking about, where they're like made with felt and they have the ears?
Yes.
And it says otaku on it. Yeah. It's just like, and then he's like holding me and I'm just doing one of these poses with the hat. It's just super, super dorky. But that was pretty much it. From then on out, I've been sort of a con fiend. Obviously, like right now, I'm not like super desperate to jump back into cons, and I have other things that I can do in the nerddoms. But yeah, cons and cosplay has been a huge part of my life pretty much ever since then. So I never let that down. I always like to remind them that I almost missed pretty much a core component of my identity because they didn't think to mention that I'd want to go. But yeah.
So you mentioned anime, and I just want to know like what anime really took you and brought you in?
The first cosplay I ever did was something from One Piece. But let's see, what was I like really into back then? I really loved Black Cat. I dressed up as Train Hartnett. I watched a lot of shoujo as a kid. I was very tomboyish, so you know, I grew up on DBZ and not Sailor Moon, that sort of thing.
Okay.
I was also really prudish as a kid, so I really didn't like stuff that had a lot of like the fan service or anything like sexual in it. So like I had a friend who was a few years older than me and like tried to introduce me to Hellsing, and I was like, I don't want to watch this. But I'm very like open to whatever. The popular shows right now are great. There was a long period of time where I didn't watch a lot of anime because I developed one of those things where it didn't become fun anymore to watch anime. It became like a job.
Yeah.
Because I was just like so desperate to like make sure I was keeping up with what was popular. And so it felt like I just had a to-do list. And so there was years that went by where I didn't watch anything. And now I've just like started to pick up on stuff and the problem now is that I'll watch the popular show and I'll absolutely love it, but there's only one season out. And then it's like, how many years is it going to be till they make more? So why did I do this to myself? Now I'm just in pain because there's no more of it. It sucks. So, but yeah, the stuff like Demon Slayer and all the good ones right now are just excellent. So highly recommend you get back into anime if it's been a hot minute. It's good stuff right now.
Definitely was a hot minute for me. Like I grew up on Sailor Moon. is actually really hypersexualized, so I understand what you're saying with that. And I just recently started watching like My Hero Academia, but I'm just like, I have so many questions and I can't watch it by myself. I need somebody to explain everything to me.
The what do they call them in My Hero? It's like not the powers. They call them something else.
They call it oh my god, I'm gonna have to Google it because
crazy.
I knew that I know this. It's like
we'll just call them powers.
I didn't have to Google it. I remember. It's called a quirk.
Oh, I was thinking stands from JoJo. That's what I was thinking of. I was coming up with an S word. I'm like, oh, that's also another one that I want to watch more of. Ah, so good. But yeah, the whole reason it's so compelling is because, like, it's like a trope of anime to have like the really like the love of statistics and like the accounting of all the figures and the numbers. Like, what was I watching the other? Oh, I just started watching Beastars, which is just very sexual from the get-go.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you want to discover the furry deep inside of you? Watch Beastars. And I'm like, whatever. I'm so desensitized to any sort of like squick against the furry community. I'm like, I have no gripes about learning that I'm into this. I mean, I don't know if I am. I'm only one episode in. I just watched it last night for the first time. We'll find out. I'll let you know. People ask if I'm a furry because I make like furry masks and stuff. And I'm just like, no, I just think bats are cute. Let me show you what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I need to know. Oh,
she has
my God. You made
Isn't
that?
it cute? Vampire
It's
bats
cute.
are just cute. Okay, this is just goblin Sona. It's less about being a furry and just more about like things that are goblin cute. And I'm just like, I could have made a little doll, but I just made a mask. And then people are like, but are you into it? Like, it's a thing that I'm like, should be closeted about. I'm like, no, but like, if I was, I wouldn't give a fuck. But yeah, we'll find out if that's a lie. Anyways, what were we talking about? I don't know.
It escalated quickly, and now we're talking about furries, and I'm still trying to get on the right path with furry stuff, but I appreciate a good work of art, and that bat thing was awesome.
Thank you. I'm gonna try to actually do like a version of that mask where I get rid of the nose ridge and I just paint it green and do some yellow eyes, and then I'll have like a goblin mask for my LARPs, which I do as well. I play Amp Guard, so I will definitely be talking to Derek about LARPs later for sure. That's like my main obsession right now. Obviously, I'm playing a lot of tabletop RPGs, but like LARP has my heart right now.
Well, yeah. So, how did you come into the TTRPG community? What games are you playing right now?
I came in really, really late. Another very like psychosemantic sort of story where I'm like, you know, it's funny that this is a story about resentment because the etymology of my name, it comes from Mary, which means bitter. But in college, a lot of my friends were always busy because they were playing tabletops. And I was doing another LARP called Humans versus Zombies then. I didn't really realize it was a LARP at the time, but it's a LARP. And that was my thing. But my friends would often be like, oh, I can't tonight because I'm playing a tabletop. And so for a long time, I felt very like that it was a bandwagon-y thing to do. And I sort of avoided it out of like a sort of hipster stubbornness is the only way I can describe it. But I finally got to do a one-shot at the end of college and I really liked it, but I never did it again until, God, what was it, like 2 years ago? So I'm relatively new to this scene. And then I just fell in love with it. I think part of the reason I did was because I was a theater major. My undergrad's in costume design and theater. And I've always loved acting. So to see Critical Role have these voice actors do a very dramatic, RP focused look at tabletop games, because to me the combat is not as enticing. Like I love board games and I love the strategy element of board games, but I don't feel like the Dungeons and Dragons 5e is as stimulating or as complex in the combat element. And maybe it's just I'm impatient. I don't know. I know a lot of people might see this stream and be like, oh, I have the perfect tabletop RPG for you. But it's also a matter of patience, right? Like I'm the type of person who's like, I would love to get people to play board games with me, but if they're not going to pay attention to when their turn is, I'm going to get mad. You know what I mean? Like you got to be present and you got to be ready to like do some deck building or whatever the game is. But so for me, in terms of like the order of what is most important to me in a tabletop RPG, it's definitely like the RP, the world building, puzzles, and then combat's actually like last. And I've learned to love it more because I'm really good at painting that movie in my mind and like really enjoying like, how would I edit this scene and how would I choreograph the fights? So I found something that I can do to keep me engaged and stimulated, but it's definitely not like the thing that I go to TTRPGs for. But yeah, I've learned to love it. And you can too.
Yes. Thank you for that. We have a question. Can Derek see your leather armor that you made?
Which one?
Ooh.
That's a stupid question.
The one you made, well, I guess it would be the first one you made. I didn't know that you made more
Yeah,
than one with the chainmail.
the Chronicles of Riddick based one.
I didn't know it was based off
The
of
black
Chronicle.
one, right? Yeah, let me pull it out. Give me like 30
Well, whatever
seconds.
you're
and
going
like
to show
Derek,
us is
you
going
can
to
sing
be
it.
cool, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to be disappointed.
Oh, now you get to see my Zoom pants. Are you ready?
Oh, Zoom pants. I'm wearing those right now too. Usually I wear a dress on the stream, but I'm like, I have worn all the ones that I like, so I'm just surviving in the clothes I have.
We do keep freezing a teensy bit, but I'm also recording this, so if it's freezing too much for you and you can't wait and you want to turn it off, those of you who are watching, don't worry. I'll have the VOD up in about 5 days based on like the Twitch affiliate rules, and you'll be able to catch up on that. Sorry, friends. Sometimes your internet just doesn't want to work.
We're real trying. Okay, you're back.
I'm back. So I've been cosplaying since 2006, and I went on Twitter and I was like, which thing should I make? Should I make the Squid Baby or should I make the armor from Chronicles of Riddick? And I can't remember which one won, but I was initially going to do something more screen accurate, but then I happened to get into AmpGuard and they're really into leather armor. And I was like, you know what? I think I can actually just do a sort of offshoot of the armor in leather. And so I made it as screen accurate as I could, but now I can actually wear it at a LARP, and it's not made of EVA foam and it won't fall apart and it will last a really long time. So that's really exciting. So as you can see, it's got a lot of punching and stamping in it. And let me see if I can get the light
So
to, there we go.
learn how to leather work to make this.
Yeah, it was a lot. But it was really, really fun, and I'm totally addicted to it now. I don't even know if I want to go back to EVA foam unless I absolutely have to. Like, obviously, like certain materials suit a project better, but if you can do it with EVA foam, you can do it with leather, at least with a thin, like 1/8 of an inch thickness, right? Like, obviously, like the pros of using EVA foam are that you can work with like a really thick piece and carve subtractively, or you could additively add things like foam clay. But leather is just so lovely and it smells good if you're not a vegan. I'm a vegetarian. So
Me too.
I don't know if leather counts. But yeah, I'm absolutely in love with it. And I want to do more leather working. So
yeah, I mean, that has so many great details and like it's so interesting, and the fact that you took the time to even make that really means something. Yeah, you create.
Creepy faces.
Yeah, that's really great.
It's based off the 15th century Negroni armor that's like at the height of plate armor before, guns started coming into warfare and plate armor sort of disappeared. So the end of the medieval era is the highlight of that. So if you ever want to look up, I think it's Filippo Negroni. It's Negroni, I think. I don't know. But yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And that's what the design was based off of in the movie. If you haven't seen the Chronicles of Riddick series, it's super good.
Thanks for the recommendation. I have not. So, what are your goals with your cosplay coming up?
I want to do things that are more feasible. So I've been doing stuff like the Picasso creature from The Fifth Element. I don't know if you're able to put anything up on screen in terms of pictures. That'd be easier to show because this is all like unpainted and stuff. Mm-hmm. But these are really large silicone props. And so just in materials, it costs like over $100 just for the materials, not including, the mold that I had to cast it in and the clay that I sculpted the initial piece in. So when you're looking at the entirety of the entire project, it's hundreds and almost probably like $1,000 in just in materials just to get to this point. And then like if I mess something up, it's just such an expensive hobby, and at the scale that I'm doing it, it's just sort of an insanity. So like I said, I'm looking forward to making just LARP pants or something simple. But I also want to get into, I've started finding more stuff on the doll community and people making really cool stuff with felt and other materials that I haven't worked with before. So I'm always challenging myself to learn something new. So I think trying to keep it small and manageable, because I'm always like, hey, I want to do this new thing, and then absolutely doing it in hard mode every time. And then I'm learning that financially that's really stupid and I should probably be more reasonable with my choices. So in the future, I'm trying to be like an adult, I guess, and just be responsible with my art. But yeah.
Well, we support you and we're excited to see what happens next. I don't have any more questions at the moment. We'd like to bring back our musical guest, but thank you so much for talking with us, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
Bye.
All right, Derek, you're back up. Oh, I'm muted.
You're muted. Oh.
I unmuted myself on OBS, but then didn't unmute in Zoom. I am with it today, y'all.
Yeah.
All right, Derek, you're up.
So the good news is I've mastered the unmute button. The bad news is I'm not good. I haven't mastered the entrance yet. I'm realizing there's a reason I stay away from cameras most of the time. Yeah. So I did actually read before someone was like, hey, is there a place you can get this stuff? And I was like, oh, right. I wrote this stuff in 2017 when the game ended, and I did release a CD with it as I released CD as the villain that I was playing in the game, because I played one of my characters was a death metal musician that was hollowed out by the darkness and became one of the final bosses of the game. And everyone hated me and really wanted me to die, and they didn't kill me. So I lived, and like canonically, the CD is like the villain writing a middle finger to the town about like, oh, stuff that happened, and I'm alive, and that's whatever. And you can find it on Bandcamp, because that was all I could do in 2017. It's a little bit unpolished because I didn't know what I was doing. But if you Google Songs from the Dark by Harlow, then that's the CD for it. Okay, and that's all I have to ramble about for that thing. So the last song is the actual end credits for the game. So I thought it would be especially fitting since like this is like, the last song of the night. So it's the last thing that the players hear. Like we actually recorded a video for it. And then when we announced the game off for the final time, it was playing this song. So like they were looking at city blueprints on how to rebuild, and then when they pressed the play button, the projector played this video with the song and ending credits for everything instead of everything. So the song is called Goodbye to You.
Goodbye, sweet baby. So long, my friend. This night's long over. Now it's time to end. So goodbye to you. Goodbye to you. This soul's not worth saving. What's been done can't be changed. It's time to pay the piper. Don't forget what we gave. So goodbye to you. Goodbye to you. Time's short, my dearest. Words, please, don't fail me now. We knew this would happen. You'll move on somehow. So goodbye to you. Goodbye to you. Hello, dark stranger. It's been too long. This day's grown weary. I've sung my song. So hello to you. Let's see this through. So goodbye, 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 goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah, goodbye, but not yet. That hurt my feelings, but in the best possible way.
That's it. And the good news is now I can move this piece of paper that I taped to my.
Your audio went down a little bit.
No, that's because I moved away from it. Now I can move the piece of paper I taped to my computer monitor with all the lyrics on this, so I could sing songs I wrote 6 years ago. No.
Turn the gain up.
Yes, I know where gain is. I'm a professional person.
That was opposite.
Yes, I'm a professional person. I've spoken in front of this, many words even.
Yeah.
Righty tighty, lefty loosey. That applies to a microphone. Yeah, sure. Sure.
Zoom isn't picking up on my end. Oh yeah, it's hearing the words.
Maybe I just need to.
On OBS, I see. Zoom has its own captions on, and then OBS plugin is what we use on our screen. So we're just trying to troubleshoot why Derek's sound's not working.
No puedo.
Try going into your audio settings on Zoom. So I'm gonna mute myself while I help him. That song took all of us and 2 mics out. Did you accidentally unplug? Well, no, I don't think that.
Like he said goodbye, and then
wait, is Zoom picking up the wrong mic? So click on the little caret next to the mic button on Zoom, and make sure it's selecting the correct microphone.
Now it's.
Have you tried turning it on and off again? I'm not joking though. What if you like mute and unmute yourself?
That sometimes works, but but the thing is, it is picking him up enough to put captions. Oh,
wait,
we heard you a little better. I think we got you.
Yeah, you're back. Oh, there was an unplug and plug back in thing.
You were back for a moment.
Unplug it.
Someone in chat's like, Marie is the voice of God right now. I'm just gonna bring everyone back on the screen so that we're all
technical support.
We're all in this together, so everyone's on screen now. So it's not just some floating brain, floating voice happening.
Yeah.
And I'm looking over this other direction because that's where Zoom is.
Talking, Derek, and we will let you know when we can hear you.
Testing. 1, 2.
So is there a mic on your headphones?
It might be picking that up.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Anything
like,
that he might have pressed.
maybe look on on your mic on Zoom next to the mute button, click the little up arrow, and then make sure it's change it to a different mic.
Now it says it's my webcam.
You're back.
Well, we can hear you now, so let's do that for the rest of the show. It's not as good, but you're not going to be singing anymore, so it's okay.
My webcam has a microphone.
Yes.
Yes, that
not
works.
back quality.
I'm a professional. I'm aware of all this stuff. I use it professionally, even.
I mean, you're fine because you're not going to be singing anymore, so the quality, like, it's fine. Everything's fine. We're all good. It lasted long enough for us to hear your song, and that's what matters.
Yes.
Anyway.
And your song didn't get to tell you enough that it was amazing. So thank you so much for playing that.
I know how to make an exit. That's what I got.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
And that's truly what matters.
Yeah.
We'll all remember this day. I mean, and the people in the chat are like, hey, I learned something today. So that's also good.
Hey, it was an educational process then.
Well, everyone's back. So if you all had questions for each other, this is a great time. We noticed that after the show, when we would end, people who were on the show would start asking each other all the questions that they wanted to ask that didn't get to. And we decided to just make it part of the show. But if you don't have questions, that's okay. It's hard to sometimes, I mean, it's not your job, it's our job. So, but if you do have questions, now is the time.
I have questions for both of you. For Sarah, how did you ask Matthew Mercer how he found out about your combat wheelchair?
I didn't. The one that I posted like back in August last year, on August 12th, I think it was like, it only went up for a couple of hours, and I don't know if he saw it through someone he followed liking it or retweeting it, but he liked it, retweeted it, and just commented, "It's pretty rad," and I was like, okay. Okay, yeah, Matt must have commented on, something I made, so that was wild. And then, yeah, that kind of just led into the combat wheelchair appearing on Critical Role, and it was definitely one of the things that kind of like made me feel better about it, because like it was one of those things where like by the time he retweeted it, like a good few assholes appeared and were like, people in wheelchairs can't do anything. Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you see me? Look, I'm lying on the floor. I'm so helpless. Like, it's not like I have like a full-time job or anything. um, yeah, getting to, but like as much as, the past years really like maybe just not care and be able to tell when people are being willfully ignorant from people who are asking genuine questions. It still gets to you at times. Like, I'll take a week away from Twitter and just be like, I'm just gonna watch Star Wars stuff all week and no one can stop me. And I don't have to pay attention to anything that's happening on Twitter. So yeah,
That's
it's
part of the reason why Reese was like, I was giving Reese or not a hard time, but I was joking with her about not having much on Twitter, is because that's the hardest social media for me to be on, is Twitter. So I take breaks from it a lot.
Yeah. What was your question
And
for Derek?
obviously you're dealing with a lot more than I am, so more directly.
What's your question
And
for
then
Derek?
question for Derek was, you were mentioning that audio mixing was, you weren't sure, like obviously there's so many adjacent jobs you can do. And sometimes as an artist, you're like, I know what I want to do, but if it's this adjacent thing, the dynamics of that are totally different. And so you immediately had like this opposition to considering it. What led you to that sort of paradigm around audio mixing? Did you have like experience with before and you didn't have like a pleasant experience, or?
I mean, it's mostly just complicated and frustrating. Like as a musician, I got used to editing my own stuff because I didn't want it to sound like garbage. And so like I went through all kinds of different equipment, and like playing music is easy. Playing music so that it can be transferred to an electronic format and then like published is a colossal pain. So I had to start getting used to like different audio DAWs to use, and like Songs from the Dark was my first album that like I ever did. I never thought in a million years I'd do it. So it was the culmination of all of my musical knowledge. Like, how do I master this? How can I reduce gain? And then when that was done, I was like, hey, this took me 12 months. I never want to do it again. Let's try audiobook narration. I bet that's easier. Wrong. Dumb thing. That was a dumb thing. So much harder. It takes like 3 hours of editing to make 1 hour of usable audio. But then I spent 6 very frustrating books learning how to do audio things. So when it came time to like, okay, I've learned how to do music stuff sort of and vocal stuff sort of. Why don't I just put them together and I'll, so when it came time to look at this, like, hey, we need an audio editor, I was like, I can do that. I can also do music. You can come and compose that for you too. And it's fun now.
And the music
I was gonna
really
say, I was gonna ask.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I was gonna ask that it ended up being worth it in the long run.
It's especially for some like a story, because it gives me that same satisfaction of like, it's the NPC thing. Like, I'm helping to put this story together. Like, I'm doing the music, the sound, I'm removing breaths, making everything sound good. And if it makes somebody have a feeling because of it, then that immediately, like the 40 hours I spent clicking aggressively and swearing into a Google Doc, it's awesome. I'm into it, which is why I've actually considered doing this like professionally. Me and my fiance are going to move to Europe within the next like year or two for her to pursue a degree. And once I'm like no longer doing like 3 jobs, well, what do I want to do? Like, I could do this more. I could, maybe more people need music. Maybe I can find other podcasts that want me to click and swear aggressively into a Google Doc for them to like make it, all right, give it a shot, right? No one wants to hear about wasps. Maybe they want me to edit a podcast instead.
Well, and as somebody who listens to that podcast, your work does help. It does make a difference, and it does make it more interesting and compelling for sure. So yeah, if you guys haven't listen to Fast Times at D&D High. It is a really good podcast, and I highly recommend it.
It's fun. I even get to be in one.
What was that?
Oh,
I even get to be in one.
That's awesome.
We did a special chicken heist episode.
Are you in
and
the chicken heist episode?
Yeah, I'm the goth kid.
Okay, I haven't listened to it yet, so I will be listening to it. Amazing.
I have like a audio nerd question for you. Like, I'm just really curious. You said that you went through a bunch of different DAWs to find out what was the best. What do you use?
Right now, I use Adobe Audition for my for most of my for the podcast, especially because I am really happy with their multi-track capabilities. Mm-hmm. So when I have 6 pieces of audio, 5 characters, 2 things of sound effects, a vocal overlay, and music. Adobe Audition for me is worth that. I'm really happy with a lot of their crossfading features. There's 1 or 2 things I could change. For music, I generally right now I'm recording in Reaper. I used to be a Ableton boy because by default it comes with a lot of computers and audio interfaces. Yeah. So Reaper was recommended to me by by actually the person who helped me write and compose the Fast Times theme song. She's infinitely more talented than I am, and when she makes a recommendation, I listen and thank it. So that's what I
was done asking questions. I just still had that question. I didn't know I needed it.
Yeah. Sarah, do you have any questions for anyone?
None that I can think of. I'm terrible at thinking of questions.
That's totally,
anytime I'm asked, I'm terrible.
It's not your job, so you don't have to do it.
I wrote mine down.
That's right. I was like, that's definitely a teacher thing of this is what I do. And Reese is a pageant queen, and so it's some she has done this professionally as well, and so this is it's our job. So totally not expecting that from you, and especially you're up way past my bedtime. So thank you so much for joining us.
That's fine.
We'll let you all do your plugs, and then Reese and I will do an outro, and then we'll end the show. So, Sarah, if there's anything in particular that you want to plug, now is the time.
Yeah, a couple of things. There's my Twitter at Mustangs Art, which is pretty much where I post everything that I'm doing. I'm under a lot of NDAs at the minute, but as and when I can talk about things, that's where I talk about them. In October, Lost Omens Grand Bazaar supplement book comes out for Pathfinder 2E, in which I wrote an official rule set essentially for the combat wheelchair specifically for Pathfinder. If you check out the upcoming book as well for Starfinder, Tech Revolution, I wrote sci-fi version for them, which is coming out this year, I think, later this year. My first ever adventure has been published in the Witcher tabletop. So if you go to Artalsorian Games' website, or if you go to DriveThruRPG and type in The Witcher, A Book of Tales, my one is Enter the Fighting Pits. It's 6 stories. You can pretty much just choose and pick as one-shots if you want to. There's also a kind of a fun story mechanic in there where you can literally put them all together and do a campaign that goes all the way from the north of the continent down to the south, and you get to interact with different levels of the ongoing war and politics and things as you go and fight some monsters, or in some cases like my one, less about fighting monsters, does include a monster, but it's more about appeasing nobles and having to deal with them, which was fun. It has a lot of NPCs, so if you're into role playing, then it's a great adventure for you. It has something like 24 NPCs, which is the most in any adventure in the book. That was fun to write. And then so pinned tweet as well on my Twitter, Combat Wheelchair version 3.0. There will be updates and stuff, but basically if you click on the Google Drive link, which is a completely safe and secure link, by the way, because I know some people do worry about that, and I've also, all the PDFs are also encrypted, so you're absolutely fine. You're not going to get a virus from me or anything, I promise. There is a version of the combat wheelchair which has all of the nice artwork and is laid out like a homebrew D&D book version.
Can I ask one last question? I just forgot. I just remembered something that I wanted to ask you. Is that okay?
Do it quick because we gotta end the show.
Okay. How do you feel about like people who don't have disabilities playing people with disabilities? Like,
Loaded question. There is basically, if you're going to do it and you want to do it seriously and in a way that genuinely contributes and doesn't make a character out to be a mock or a mockery or a caricature in any way, the best way I can say if you're doing it right or wrong is there is a very big difference between disabled because funny because disabled and disabled and funny. There is a very big difference. So, and also as well, talk to other people at your table. If there are disabled people at your table who are very uncomfortable with you, an able-bodied person trying to represent their experience, do not do it. Don't try and argue that you're going to, try and be sensitive or whatever. If they're uncomfortable, don't. At the end of the day, you're not the disabled person. As well, on top of that, there are a lot of free resources online in terms of your research. If you go to Jennifer Kretschmer's Twitter at DreamWisp, I think it's their first pinned tweet, is a huge resource full of stuff, whether you're planning on writing stuff or making a game or just making a character and want resources, whether you're disabled or not. They're just great. I use them for work. They're wonderful. Some of them are cost, like you can pay to use them. A lot of them, though, the majority are free or pay what you want. So it's a very difficult question to answer, but listen to people at the table that you are talking to, and the general consensus is if it's a live stream and everybody there is able-bodied, don't play the character because you've got nobody there to tell you when you're doing something wrong or very hurtful, even if that's not your intention. Research, talk to other disabled people who have the experience that you are looking to show through this character. If you do talk to someone like that, I know that not a lot of disabled people pay for their services, and that's due to the absolute terrible thing of if they earn a certain amount of money, they may lose their benefits, which obviously they need for covering medicine and care and, basic means to live. And the government will happily strip that away if you earn like a penny more. So if they can't either tip on Ko-fi, because that technically is gifting money, they don't have to legally claim that or talk about it in their taxes. Or you can buy something from their Amazon wish list if they have one, or you could buy something from their Etsy wish list, or you could just buy a game for them on Steam or whatever platform they use. Just buy a nice little video game. Somebody did that for me when I was first starting out. They bought me the new Animal Crossing, and yeah, it was just very sweet and meant a lot. So just doing small things like that is great. So it may be just talking to you about their experience, but at the end of the day, it's still work. It's emotional labor. It's extremely tiring, and can sometimes be very upsetting. And if there are certain things they don't want to talk to you about, don't push, don't press. That's that person's experience, and they don't really owe you anything, just for making a D&D character or something. So just be sensible and sensitive, and if you're going to do it, really do your research and your homework, and always make sure it goes through a disabled person or someone, a disabled person with experience on talking about this. And so that's the short version basically of like the rundown. I do plan at some point with the combat wheelchair updates. I've got some updates planned for the future with future content, that I'm going to put a whole thing in for GMs and a whole thing for players about how to go about this correctly, and the best ways to go about it, things like that. I will eventually have like something in the PDF that fully addresses it. There are bits and pieces in the Combat Wheelchair version 3.0 that talks about it, and touches on it, but I will offer a more in-depth version in the future. Pin tweet, Combat Wheelchair version 3.0. There is a book version, there's a plain text version, so that if you want to print it, to have a physical paper copy to write on at your tables and whatever, that's absolutely fine. And it saves you the ink because you don't have to print off all the color pages and all the layouts. Then there is also an open dyslexic version, which is a dyslexic friendly font and layout for you, for anybody who may need that, with a high contrast page to make it easier to read. Then there is going to be a online interactive version for people who also require that. That is going to be coming out onto Shard Tabletop. I have an agreement with them on it. And yeah, they're going to be putting like all the subclasses and everything up. So like you can, whack up a Daredevil rogue combat wheelchair user, and it will just do all the stats for you. And you can also add your upgrades and take them off as and when. You don't really have to worry too much about keeping track of all that on paper. And it should be screen reader friendly and all of that good stuff. So yeah, that's everything I can talk about at the moment.
Awesome. That was a lot. You do a lot. You're busy.
Yeah.
All right. So I linked Sarah's information in the chat. I also linked Jennifer's Twitter in the chat because Jennifer's an awesome person to follow. Have been following them for a long time. I had to check to make sure I didn't mess up on pronouns there. And I have linked, Marie, you're going to go next on plugs. I linked your Instagram because I know that you are more active there, so that people can see your cosplays, all of the creatures that you make. I will link that again right now. Just did. Okay, plugs, Marie.
Java Cat cosplay pretty much everywhere, but I'm most active on Instagram just because it doesn't make sense for me to have 50 billion social medias when I'm just sharing pictures. But if you want me on Twitter, just tag me and I'll say hi.
Easy peasy.
Done.
Derek.
Hi. So you can find me Twitter at TAudiomancer, where I literally just talk about wasps and sometimes audio like every other month because I'm bad at internet. Most of my music, my YouTube is all audio, just like guitar and vocal covers that I that I post in between editing for podcasts at Derek Perry Music. You can find Songs from the Dark, stuff I did tonight at Bandcamp. And if you like that, I've just finished another album that has nothing to do with that and doesn't sound like it in any way, shape, or form because it's all instrumental vibes for Fast Times. That's free for all Fast Times patrons, and it'll be released to everyone else this week. It's lo-fi jams that are like if every character was in detention, what songs would they listen to pass the time? And you should definitely check out Fast Times at D&D High. Let me NPC for your ears and tell you a story. And if you are into audio dramas, you should check out the Mercury Theater podcast, where I sometimes did to do voice acting for it instead of editing. I don't have to edit it. I get to talk and make someone else deal with it. That's great. I'm real thrilled about that too. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for being on. We're going to transition over to our outro. So I have just wrapped up Saved by the Spell. In a couple weeks on Tuesdays, TRPG will have our Kids on Brooms show with, it'll be a 3-shot. Arcane Goth, who is Max, is going to be GMing that, and we have an awesome cast, and I will be announcing that cast after session 0. And what else do we have going on? Just this show and that right now. I will be on Weave the Tales 2 TTRPG show starting September 10th, and that's at 5:30 Pacific on Fridays. So that will be super fun. Reese.
Are we still doing Stardew?
No, Stardew is done because that was, I was calling it Summer Farm because I could only play during my summer break.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because I was playing it at 11 a.m. on a Monday. So I'll be in class now.
Okay, well, I am planning on bringing y'all into my Sims Journey. Still haven't picked a date or a time, but it would be great if anyone could like come and hang out and like tell me what to do with my Sims and how to raise my family and how to do pets and grow farms and all kinds of stuff. So that'll be my thing coming up on TTRPG soon. You can follow me at Miss Reese on Instagram, but also at Miss Reese1 on Twitter. Please make sure to follow TTRPG on YouTube. We're trying to get as many subscribers as possible. And be sure to follow us on TTRPG on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the things. TikTok, we'll get there.
We're on there. We just haven't had any videos.
We got to make something.
Soon we will do that. All right. Thank you so much for hanging in there through all of the technical difficulties. We really appreciate you, and we will see you next time.